Ethan Price had been raised in a strict Christian household, where prayer opened every day and scripture shaped every choice. His parents, Richard and Margaret Price, had built their family on devotion, discipline, and faith. Ethan's older siblings, Samuel and Claire, were 6 years ahead of him, always protective, always watchful. At 28, Ethan returned home for Thanksgiving. The fire glowed warmly in the hearth, Margaret hummed old hymns in the kitchen, and Richard led a prayer at the table before carving the turkey. Everything felt the same. But as dinner went on, and the family spoke between laughter and clinking silverware, Ethan caught words not meant for him. His siblings whispered too loudly, careless with their wine. He never knew. He was just a baby when they found him. The words cut through the air. Ethan's fork froze halfway to his mouth. His eyes lifted slowly. Samuel and Claire froze, their faces pale. Margaret looked down at her plate, hands trembling. Richard's jaw tightened until the veins in his temples stood out. Adopted. The word was never spoken aloud, but Ethan heard it all the same. Dinner ended in an uneasy quiet. Richard finally stood, pushing back his chair. His voice was firm but low. "Ethan, come with me. We need to talk." The two of them drove through the empty streets of their hometown. Old storefronts sat dark and hollow, the church loomed like a shadowed giant, and brittle leaves whispered along the sidewalks. At last, Richard spoke. "There was a plague here," Richard said, his hands gripping the wheel. "A sickness no one could name. People bled from their gums. Their skin cracked and peeled. Their veins turned black. The doctors here couldn't help, and those sent from the city, many never returned. We prayed harder than ever. Nothing worked. Then, one night, a meteor fell from the sky. It lit everything green. A week later, the sickness began to fade. People got better. Just like that." Ethan stared out the window, the silence between them growing heavier. "The government came," Richard continued. "They took the rock. Said it wasn't safe. But the crater remained. People visited it. Pilgrims, tourists, scientists. One day, your mother and I went too. And there, on the black soil, we found you, crawling out of the dirt. Naked. Alone. You weren't left there. You weren't lost. You were there. And we brought you home." The words pressed on Ethan's chest like stone. His voice shook as he whispered, "I've been dreaming, Father. Every night. I see people fall sick. Their eyes glaze, their veins darken, their skin burns with fever. I wake up choking on the smell of blood. What you're describing, the plague, it's the same as my dreams." Richard's breath shuddered, and he slowed the car. But then a cough broke from his chest. Not deep, but persistent. Wet. He raised a trembling hand to his mouth, and when he pulled it away, a streak of red glistened in the dashlight. "Dad," Ethan whispered. The coughing worsened, rattling Richard's body. But then another sound joined it. Outside. Something dragging, scraping along the asphalt. A wet, heavy rhythm. Ethan turned, eyes wide, but saw nothing. The road was empty, yet the sound drew closer, louder, pressing against the car from nowhere. Richard's eyes darted to the mirror. "Do you hear it?" he rasped. The car jolted as if brushed by unseen hands. Ethan's skin crawled. Pressure built in the air, thick and suffocating, sinking into his lungs. Richard slammed his foot on the accelerator. The car roared down the road, but the sound followed. Not footsteps. Not wheels. Something wetter. Something alive. Like organs slapping against pavement. At last, the house came into view through the trees. Richard's voice broke between ragged coughs. Blood stained his teeth. His eyes shone with fear. Ethan, you were never a blessing. You were a warning. The car skidded into the driveway, gravel exploding under the tires. Behind them, the sound stopped. But silence only made it worse. A silence too deep, as though the world itself was waiting. Ethan dragged his father from the car, both of them stumbling to the front door. They slammed it shut, bolting it, pressing their backs against the wood as though it could keep the darkness out. And then, from the porch, came the sound of breathing. Long, slow, patient. Richard collapsed into another fit of coughs, blood speckling the floorboards. Ethan clutched his father's shoulder, his veins burning, his chest tightening with every breath. In that moment, he understood. The sickness had not returned to the town. It had been waiting inside him all along. Wait for part 2.